Confident as fuck is about embodying the notion that your hotness, your beauty is fuck all to do with the way you look. Well, the biggest misconception is that you have to look a certain way, you have to act a certain way, you have to be a certain kind of someone. You don't have to be anybody else but you to be confident. And I think it was like this moment of shit, like everything I thought was true is fucking bullshit.
It isn't true.
Yeah. I'm an anxious person and that means I'm never going to succeed. I'm angry and that means I'm a bad person. I'm lonely and that means I'm alone. When really it's just a part of your human experience. You're falling back in love with who you are and you're not trying to be anyone else and you're going against the norms. Look, this is what's going to make me happy. This is who I am. If they can't understand that, that's not your issue. That's their issue. For anybody who hears it to know that no matter what they've been through, they can turn what they've been to and transmute what they've been through into their one of their biggest powers. I think that a huge turning point for me was not only trusting myself, but trusting that something bigger is at play.
Hi, welcome back to Bold Moves, the podcast where we empower women to be bold, be brave, and be you. Today is a special day. You're going to love my guest speaker today. You are going to love her story. You are going to love her energy. You are going to love her confidence. It's all about turning pain into power. How amazing is that? We are going to talk about mindset. We are going to talk about confidence. We are going to talk about emotional intelligence because she is a women's mindset and emotional intelligence coach. How amazing is that? I'm sure you're going to love it. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. And I'm sure you're going to learn so much about her approach about emotional intelligence and mindset and confidence. This one is a must watch for you. So without further ado, let's welcome Courtney. All right. Thank you so much for doing this with me today. And I really appreciate your time, Courtney, to do this with me. You are in Manchester, yeah?
I am Manchester, UK. It's very cold.
And I'm in Bali, very hot and raining right now. Isn't that great? Let's just get started. I can't wait.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so you are a women's mindset and emotional intelligence coach, right? You help women who are in their 30s or coming into their 30s to master the skill of becoming more aware and accepting and feeling their emotion. Can you briefly tell us about your coaching program? Like, who is it for, or what's it like, or just for the context for the audience?
Of course. So I've got two main offerings and two main services that are kind of let's say signature programs that are like my little babies and that I'm absolutely obsessed with. So let's start off with Confident as Fuck. So Confident as Fuck.
Love that name already.
Yeah, Confident as Fuck. It is high vibe, high energy, and it is a membership for women who are basically putting a middle finger up to society's norms, society's expectations. It's for women who kind of have never really felt understood, never really felt like they've been able to express themselves emotionally or like their passionate, like loud, weird selves. Confident as Fuck is a membership where women come together from all over the world. It's really, really incredible. And we basically, it's a lot of identity work. So stepping into the identity of the confident as fuck woman through challenges, through trainings, through supporting other women and holding that safe space. They get a learning portal where they learn about, how to master their mindset and emotional intelligence. And it's really about Confident as Fuck is about really embodying the notion that your hotness, your beauty is fuck all to do with the way you look. And everything to do with the way that you show up for yourself and other people, mentally, emotionally, energetically. So that's confident as fuck.
I love that. So that one is confident as fuck. And then the
Yeah.
second one, what's that?
The second one is Pain to Power. So that's my bespoke one-on-one 4-month experience. It's so much more than a one-on-one program. It's where women who are fully ready to let go of the old version of themselves, women who are fully ready to kind of face their pain and turn their pain, turn their trauma, turn their previous experiences into their power.
I love the name of your two programs, and I love the way you explain that as well. Like, first one is confident as fuck is for these women, and the second one is the pain to power. It's more like storytelling of their own story, because it's like women can rewrite their story instead of
That's it.
and I love the name. Where did you get the name? The name is very catchy, and it's just different.
Yes.
Confident as fuck is the name for me. It's just like, yeah, I'm gonna sign up for that membership, because I've noticed your coaching called Confident as fuck. Yeah, I love it. For you, what's the biggest misconception women have about confidence? Let's talk about that one first. The misconception about.
I think the biggest misconception is that, the biggest misconception is that you have to look a certain way, you have to act a certain way, you have to be a certain kind of someone to feel that confidence. And please, anybody listening to this, it's just not true. That is a narrative that you're telling yourself. It's like you don't have to be anybody else but you to be confident. And I think that is the most common misconception. Women think that
Can you say that again? We don't have to be what? Say that again.
You don't have to be anybody else. You don't have to be anybody else. All you have to do is turn the volume up on who you are. And what I mean by that is, I don't necessarily mean that you have to be the loudest in the room either, because you don't. Most of the time, the loudest in the room is the least confident, because they're being that loud for a reason, right? But not all the time. But I think that we just get to look at things in context. But yeah, you just get to be okay with being you, and not even just okay about it. You get to like really fall in love with the dark parts of you, the parts of you that you don't necessarily love, the parts of you that you try and shut away for most of your life and ignore and judge. Like, once you embrace all of that, you don't carry any shame. And that's where confidence lies. Also, and I will sing this till, I don't know what the saying is, till the cows come home, whatever the saying is.
Sing it out.
Whatever the saying is. Emotional regulation underpins everything. When you know these skills, your confidence will increase. Hands down.
Oh my God. So emotional intelligence has something to do with confidence. That's what you're saying.
Everything to do with confidence. Yeah, 100%.
I remember being a teenage girl, even until my early 20s. Confidence is something that I lacked of. It's just my understanding of confidence is just how I look to be a certain way, and
especially
to be
as a woman. 100%.
And then it has something to do with you. I'm not confident because I don't look pretty. And so for me, and then I started to learn about myself, self-awareness. And then I started to learn I don't have to be a certain person. For example, I just put into my perspective, because to translate into people's life as well, the women that watching. So my sister is very quiet, a very good girl type of mold, everyone loves her. And I think I made an episode in my podcast about that, because she's just very quiet, while I'm not quiet. My dad and my mom know it. I've always got something to say. And because growing up with her, I started to notice like people like her more than me. So I started to, okay, now I need to change a little bit to be more like, okay, calm down, not too loud. And then it didn't feel comfortable. It didn't feel comfortable doing that.
So you're not being yourself.
Yeah, and it's very uncomfortable situation when you're not being yourself. And I started to realize, no, fuck it, I'm not gonna be someone else. It's just me.
Love that.
And and then that's when I started to, that's me. And I started to accept I like to speak. I like to talk, and it's not just rubbish talking anyway. It's more like, yeah, I have something to say, and that's why I started the podcast. If I'm very quiet, I can't do that. I can't, right? Like, what are you gonna say? Like being a host, and you kind of like, I don't have any more question, Courtney. Like, you cannot do that. You've got to.
So emotional intelligence, right? To put it kind of the most simple way for our wonderful listeners is that you need the awareness piece. So there's a framework called the triple AL framework, right? And that is the most simple way to really explain emotional intelligence. So you've got the first A, which is awareness, right? And that's the ability to become aware of what you're feeling.
What's happening with you?
Yeah, so
What
what's
has
happening?
happened?
So you'll feel it in your body and you'll notice it. Simple. The next one is acknowledgement. Now, with acknowledgement, this is where things start to get a little bit trickier. Because human beings love to make meaning of the world.
True.
That's how we cope with the world. We make meaning of it. But what happens with emotions when you're first starting this work, or if you don't know this work, it's very easy to fall into the trap of making your emotions mean something about you or the experience that you're having or the situation. So for instance, what a lot of people love to do is, I'm an anxious person and that means I'm never going to succeed. I'm angry and that means I'm a bad person. I'm lonely and that means I'm alone. When really it's just a part of your human experience. You don't have to make it mean anything about you or what the situation is. So what you want to do here is you want to label what you're feeling, become aware of it, label it, understand what the emotion is. So for instance, anger is a really incredible emotion. Anger is the emotion that's evoked when you perceive that you've been wronged. So it's an opportunity to set a boundary, to communicate your needs, and to move forward and find a solution. Without anger, some of the most incredible changes in the world wouldn't have happened. So I love anger as an emotion, which is so special to me because because I went so long in my life
that it means a lot for a lot of people.
Yeah, I used to be so reactive to my anger, so it's a big thing for me as well to get to this place as well. But so you want to acknowledge without meaning. I'm feeling angry and that's okay. I'm feeling anxious and that's okay because I'm a human being who experiences all emotions, and that's beautiful. That's it. That's the awareness and acknowledge piece. Then and this is where people really start to struggle a little bit, is the acceptance of the emotion. So why is it okay to feel this emotion that you're feeling? Why is it okay to feel anger? So I'm grateful for this anger because it allows me to create change in my life. I'm grateful for this loneliness because it allows me to go and connect with people who are actually on the same level as me. So you get to accept it. What is this emotion giving you? Like, why is it okay? Because the more we deny our emotions, the louder and the more consuming they become. So as soon as you try to kind of get rid of your anxiety, get rid of your anger, you feel it more. Yeah, you get more anxious, you get more angry because you're denying your experience. Like anxiety,
there's a resistance to it.
Yes, exactly. Like anxiety is something that I'm very, very like an expert in. And it makes me laugh because my clients, when they first come to me, they're like, but if I accept my anxiety, surely I'll just feel it more. And I'm like, no, it's the opposite. As soon as you stop trying to get rid of your anxiety all the time and accept it and allow it in, the less you'll feel it, right? So that's the acceptance piece. And then there's let go. So let go is your regulation piece. Your letting go is, how are you going to allow yourself to release this emotion? So you can do this by asking, what do I need in this moment? What does my body need in this moment? What does this emotion need from me to pass through my body? Now that everyone's different, but for me it's movement, it's breath work, it's journaling, it's going outside in nature, all of these things that make me feel calm. It could be screaming into a fucking pillow, like whatever it is in that moment, that is crying is a release. Yeah, to let go of that emotion. Yeah. So that is really emotional intelligence um wrapped up. But the other piece as well is the safety to express and communicate all of that.
That is beautifully said. And I'm just going to wrap up that part. So, what Courtney said about emotional intelligence in a simple way, there's like awareness,
Yeah.
acknowledge, acceptance, and let go. And it
Yes.
means being able to express your emotion, all of the experience safely. That's
Safely.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
And my favorite part is when you say the acknowledge part. It's like you separate the person and the situation, because
Mm,
sometimes people think that, oh, my situation is shitty, so I'm shitty, like I'm in
mm.
this horrible situation and I'm a horrible person. And I love that part because it's just sometimes as a human being we do that, like, oh, I'm failing at this, I'm a failure.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about knowing that you get to choose your story. Like you get to choose how you respond to a situation. You get to choose how you view a situation. And when you really notice that, and when you kind of start getting into the habit of reframing those thoughts, it might be a shitty situation, but you don't allow that shitty situation to mean anything about you,
Yeah.
your ability, your worth, or your emotions. And that shitty situation then doesn't follow through to the week, the month, the
Mm.
yeah.
I love the way you explain it, and it's simple, but yet it's still, people need to learn about that. And I really think so. Even I learned something from the emotional intelligence. I thought it was something different from this. And then I love how you reframe it. Like there is concept awareness, acknowledge, and blah 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 blah. And it's just easier to understand. It didn't feel like, oh, what is emotional intelligence? It's gonna be
Yeah.
something difficult. It is difficult journey. It sometimes is lifelong journey.
Yeah, well,
Sometimes.
it's
Yeah.
always a lifelong journey because there's always deeper layers to go to, and
True.
new lessons to be had. But I think that's an exciting thing, the fact that it's a lifelong journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what you said, because I absolutely agree, and this is something that I always say. It's like, it's simple. It really is
Mm-hmm.
simple. It's not always easy,
Mm-mm.
because you're on this journey of, you've thought and felt a certain way for probably 20 odd years of your life, and
True.
you're on a journey of changing all of that. So of course it's going to be challenging, but it is really that simple when you break it down. It's just about learning it, practicing it, and then refining it once you
Yeah,
know
it's
it.
difficult because it's unfamiliar because we've been,
Exactly that.
yeah. Talking about my teenage girl, what do you think needs to change in our society now so we can have more confident girls and women around us?
I think I think it starts with understanding that when you start your own journey, you are creating a ripple effect that you have no idea how far that's going to go. So, like, I always say to my clients who work with me, like, the number one thing I'll ask is, what's your why? Why are you doing this? Why are you here? Why are you inside confident as fuck? Why are you wanting to join Pain to Power? And most of the time it's because I want something, and okay, what's your secondary why? Because you want to, for your future family, you want to have these skills to pass down to them, because we all know, well, most of the women that I work with definitely didn't get it passed down to them from their parents, because that generation just
Oh
did
yeah.
shove everything in a box and just
Mm-hmm.
hoped everything went away. So I think the change that we get to make as a society is really concentrating on our own journey, but knowing that the ripple effect from just improving your mind and getting to know your body, and understanding how your emotions work, like, that has such a huge ripple effect, like, you have no idea. Even I've had clients who have done this work and taught their parents, and like helped their parents through certain emotional chaos, and that to me is just like
Oh.
the best feeling in the world, because that is the ripple effect in motion. So I think it starts with definitely concentrating on yourself and your own journey. But then in terms of like wider things that I think that could be done and should be done, is we don't get taught this shit in school. We don't get taught about nervous
No.
system regulation, or how the mind works, or what thoughts are, and how everything you believe isn't necessarily feckin' truth. but I am a bit of a I don't even think it's what's the word?
Conspirational.
Conspiracist? Yeah. I I don't think we get taught it in school, because if every single person mastered this skill, society as we know it
Exactly.
wouldn't there'd be no hierarchy, there'd be no people in power, because everyone would understand the power that they hold. So I don't think we'll ever get taught it in school.
Yeah, that's true because I've never got that education about. I might say the word self-love, like you love yourself, part of you, the past, your current self, and sometimes it's a journey. Like you said, that's why I like your program talking about the pain to power. I think it's
Mm,
like a journey. Chapter
yeah.
one, chapter two.
Yeah. And you think you're gonna have your life figured out by and everything's gonna be like amazing, and it's not. But I love that. Like, I was so excited to turn 30. I turned 30 in September, and that's why I love to work with women who are approaching or in their 30s, because when I was like 28, 29, the conversation starts, doesn't it, of, oh God, we're nearly 30, oh God. But I was like, I can't wait to turn 30. And that's a stage in your pain to power journey. Like, people around you aren't necessarily gonna love what you're doing, but if you know that you're being your true self, and you're being comfortable, and like you're falling back in love with who you are, and you're not trying to be anyone else, and you're going against the norms, then you'll get to a place where you can communicate to your loved ones who don't quite get it, just being like, look, this is what's going to make me happy, this is who I am. And if they can't understand that, and they can't get on board with that, then that's not your issue, that's their issue. And I'll always say to people who are just starting this journey, or are just like wanting to change, and they have that pull, they have that desire to do things differently, and create a different sort of life, I always say to like those people, this isn't going to be an easy journey. If anything, like, this is one of the things it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But that's why lots and lots of people go their whole life unhappy, because it's easier. It's easier to be unhappy sometimes than to create the change that's going to make you happy. But that is a choice that you get to make. And I guess the first step is the awareness piece always, because you can't change what you don't know. So it's getting aware, like becoming aware of where in life you are not showing up as your most authentic self. So for me, I was very much like I was attached to a couple of identities. So I thought I was an anxious person. I attached to the identity of like a party girl. So I was always going out drinking, like getting myself in ridiculous situations and things like that. And I like took a step back, and I was like, right, is that actually me? Like, is that who I want to be? Is that who I am? Yeah, is that who I am at the core? And the answer to that was no. So then I was like, right, okay, where in life am I playing up to this role, to the anxious person, to the party girl, and what do I want to do different? What habits, like, and these are like really small things. What habits are going to allow you to be more you? Do you know what I mean? Like, for instance, I started getting into meditation. I started like being out in nature more. I started like starting every single day dancing. Every single day, I will dance in my mirror at least once a day, whether it's like in the middle of the day, at the start of the day, because it shifts my energy, and it is like okay, I'm a bad bitch, and I'm gonna fucking take on the day. But that is like, the me 5 years ago would have never have done that. Would have never danced in the mirror at 28, 20, 29, 30 years old, because I would have been like, oh my God, that's so like cringy. Yeah. But now I'm like, I genuinely couldn't give a fuck what people think of me.
That was amazing. And now let's talk about your story a little bit. I'm
Yeah.
interested in that. So you've built this amazing coaching business with your beautiful approach and your programs, and you travel the world. You help women to step into their power.
Mm-hmm.
And your story, I believe you have powerful story. You went from facing some challenges in your life, of course, to becoming this confident, empowered, and woman today. Your energy is amazing, and I love
Oh,
that. So can you take us back to that turning point, the part of your life that shaped you to be this Courtney, the enough is enough
absolutely.
moment?
Absolutely. So like when I'm explaining this story, I think it's always kind of important to highlight the journey I went on before the turning point, because I like to highlight this because I think it's important for anybody who hears it to know that no matter what they've been through, they can turn what they've been to and transmute what they've been through, transmute the pain into their one of their biggest powers. And when I was growing up, when I was quite small, I grew up around alcoholism, addiction, mental illness, and the kind of the big one was, you know, domestic violence and like a very chaotic, up and down, unsafe household. Now, when I say unsafe, like I had an amazing childhood. Like it was full of fun. Like my parents did love me. They would do anything for me, but I did grow up around that environment. I saw things no child should ever see, right? And so growing up and the experiences that I had, I was very much in what we call fight or flight mode for a lot of my childhood, because I didn't feel safe. So my body was in kind of this
the brain flight,
protective mode. I would spend a lot of the time like very hyper alert for cues that danger was approaching. So when I say danger, a good example that I always use is that I remember vividly being lay in bed, like really still and stiff, listening to the noises downstairs and listening to the door go. And if the door went and the footsteps sounded like drunk footsteps, because I could tell if my dad was sober or drunk from his footsteps. If they were drunk footsteps, then I'd be like, shit, something's going to happen here because he's drunk, right? So that's what it was, very much like hyper alert, very much like all of these traumatic experiences. And then let's fast forward a little bit to teenage years. By this point, because between the ages of 0 and 7, you are like a fucking sponge. Your mind is in all of these programs, your body's making sense of the world, you're creating the story about yourself and the world during those years. So by the teenage years, I didn't feel safe in the world. I didn't feel safe in my body. I had all these beliefs about myself. I had very low self-worth, and that would spill out in, we talked about anger before, that would spill out in me being like very, very reactive with anger. I would lash out. I've like done some things to friends in terms of like hit the people closest to me, because and then a lot of shame was attached to that, because I just thought that I was a bad person. That's who I was. And also a lot of like, I was very promiscuous from a young age, sleeping around, because I didn't know all of this then, but looking back and doing the work that I've done, I know now that was coming from a place of like, all I wanted was to be loved, and that was the only way I thought I was going to get it, right? So that all went on, and over the years, like I had experienced anxiety throughout a very young age, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't have the
awareness
dialogue, or the awareness. I didn't have the information. I didn't know what anxiety was, but I knew that I'd just freeze, or I'd feel certain feelings, that like feelings of dread. And then as I got older, I ended up in a really toxic relationship for 7 years. Then at the end of that, and then I flew to Australia. So I flew to the opposite end of the world, as far away as I could possibly go to. And I realize now that I spent pretty much all my teenage years and early 20s trying to run away from the pain that I'd experienced when I was younger. So I basically run to the other side of the world, and that still didn't work, because
you can't hide from the feeling that you've
that trauma, that pain jumped on the fucking plane with me, right? Got in my suitcase and come with me. And when I first got to Australia, like the first couple of years, the first 4 years, again, very much like my behaviors was just very disruptive. I'd always take it to the extremes with drinking, with again sleeping around a lot, just never ever settled, always like very anxious. And then
What?
At the
What's
start,
next?
and then at the start of 2021, I developed an anxiety disorder.
Okay.
So it started to control my life. Couldn't go out much. I mean, we couldn't go out much anyway because of COVID, but I mean, I was too scared to go out the door, couldn't look in the mirror at myself, couldn't even really get through a day of work without having an anxiety attack.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I just thought, fuck this. One day I thought, I am not doing this anymore.
Enough is
Something, I think
enough.
I was triggered by something
Mm-hmm.
in the gym. And instead of having an anxiety attack, I got angry. I felt anger, and it was anger towards myself, towards the situation. But instead of allowing that anger to consume me or me lashing out, I used it. So I was like, fuck this, something has to change. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that I was using my anger in a positive way. I was just like, there's got to be more to life than what I've been experiencing for the past however many years. And then I went on this huge journey of like, I went on a pain to power journey, stopped running from my pain, turned to face it. Because I think for a long time, even the stuff that I'd experienced when I was younger, I'd shoved in a box and was like, oh, shit happens to everyone. It's like, it's normal. And trust me, it was not normal.
It was.
And I just want anybody to know, like, we've talked about some pretty, hard hitting topics today.
Mm-hmm.
And you deserved more is what I'm going to say, because anytime you brush off what you've experienced, you're denying your opportunity to heal, because the more you push it away, the louder it's going to get inside you, and it comes out in anger, reacting to anger, sleeping around, whatever it might be. And I went on a huge journey of facing my pain, healing from the past, learning. Oh my God, I became obsessed with the mind, obsessed with emotional regulation, nervous system healing, and like everything to do with how how humans operate and how the body works, and just like how we connect and move about the world. Studied, researched, got obsessed with it. And then I started to view myself differently. I started to view the world differently. I started to take huge action, not necessarily in business, just
to yourself,
in
to
myself, in my personal
yourself.
life. Yeah. Started setting higher standards for like the people who allowed into my life. And then one day I was like, I actually can't go on knowing that I have this knowledge that changes lives when there's women out there who don't know this and who are living like I once lived. So then I started the business. The business over the last 3 years last 4 years has really just become everything to me. And then we got into a position where I was able to travel for the whole of last year whilst being supported by a business that I love, whilst changing the lives of women all over the world, and doing something that I always kind of knew that I wasn't ever cut out for your normal 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
And like society's thing, like I kind of always had that feeling because I never thought I fit in with that. And yeah, now I'm doing something I love, and that like I'm so grateful for it. I feel so blessed. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, wow, that is an inspiring story. And firstly, thank you so much for sharing that story. I really appreciate that you're able to share this, and that is inspiring story from what you've been through, from your childhood, teenagers, in your 20s, and then now look at you.
Yeah.
Look how far you've come, and it's your power, and how amazing the part when you decided just enough is enough. Like, no way, I deserve more. Others deserve more. Than I cannot live like this for another rest of my life, feeling anxious, feeling not enough, feeling unloved. And I just realized it starts when you start loving yourself, and just you work up, not necessarily the business, but you work on yourself first.
Yeah,
Those things.
because I started to question everything. I started to be like, right. So, for instance, like, what do I believe about this situation? What do I believe about myself, first of all, right? And then I was like, but is that necessarily true? Is that true? Even though my mind had been telling me certain things for so long, I was like, it was like this like moment of shit, like everything I thought was true is
It,
fucking
it
bullshit.
isn't. It isn't
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
then I was
so
like,
funny.
so what do I want to believe about myself? Like what is my truth that I want that's going to allow me to show up the way I want to show up? And then was just been this whole journey of continuing to do that. And that's what I mean. Like in 10 years time, I'm going to be someone completely different again. And I love
Yeah,
that. Still
it's
me,
the journey.
but more me. I feel like in 10 years, I'll be even more me,
More,
you know?
yes, that, and
Mm.
I look forward to that. I love you because you're able to communicate all of this. And
Mm.
I think a lot of women out there, again, they're not feeling safe
To
expressing
be themselves.
themselves,
Yeah.
expressing their experience and everything, because it's a shame. Shame is a feeling that is, I think that's one of the worst feeling. I think
Yeah.
shame is worse
And
than anger.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
I used to carry so much shame. It was almost like as if I spent my life being scared that I was going to be found out. Like
mhm,
people were going to find out how much of a disgusting person was. People were going to find out about the things that I'd been through. So like I didn't. It's not that I didn't want anybody to know, but like
mhm.
it was because well, I guess yeah, I didn't want anybody to
Yeah.
know. But I was so
You want
just
to you want to kind of like hide it from the world.
yeah, and hide myself. Like it was
Mhm,
almost as if I was hiding myself. I didn't want to be seen as the truest me because I thought the truest me and me like was this disgusting, awful person. But then when I realized I wasn't and that there was nothing to be shameful of and that I actually had nothing to forgive myself for as well. Like, of course, the way I'd acted in my teens was like I wanted to forgive myself for that because the behavior towards other people wasn't
mhm.
great. But also acknowledging that that wasn't me, that behavior
The
didn't define me. It
situation.
was
Yeah.
the person that was in pain. You know what I mean? But while still owning my shit, obviously.
Yeah, that is, I love that part. I love that you are able to share this to the world, like, and you, by the look of you're saying it, you're expressing it, you feel safe. It's not something that I'm
Yeah.
ashamed of my past. And that is
No.
something that people need to learn more, because I believe, I know a lot of people out there have the same childhood experience and all that. And
Mm.
they just struggle.
Yeah.
Especially when you turn into 30, everything start to make sense, and the shame is just eating you.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm.
and yeah, so what's the biggest lesson from that journey that you carry until now? Just the one that pop up to your mind right now. Oh, which one? The
The
biggest.
biggest journey the biggest lesson that pops up to me on this journey is that you're exactly where you're supposed to be at any given time. You're always in the
Oh,
exact right the exact right space and place at the exact right time. And it's trusting that. I think that a huge turning point for me on my journey was not only trusting myself, but trusting that something bigger is at play, that someone
mhm,
is always
mhm.
guiding us, something is always guiding us. Like I had a bit of a spiritual awakening as well during that time. Not like massive, I'm not, but I truly believe now and I truly feel connected to myself and to God, the universe. I don't even like have a name for it. It's just I know that I'm being guided on this journey and I
Yeah.
know that when I think back to some of the key points in my journey and I'm like, oh my God, if I wasn't in that exact moment if I didn't
Mhm,
meet that person and
mhm,
everything just wouldn't have panned out. Like I wasn't even supposed to be, I'm a permanent resident of
mhm,
Australia now.
mhm. It's not
During
supposed to
COVID,
happen if you, yeah.
if the borders would have shut 2 days before they did, I would not be with my partner right now. I
Mhm.
wouldn't be in Australia right now. I probably wouldn't be, or maybe I would be coaching, but I just don't know because all this journey started a couple of months after I was, I couldn't leave Australia and I was supposed to go
Yeah.
and live in New Zealand. So it just little things like that. So my biggest lesson is like trust. And
Your
that was the
journey.
worst thing in
Trust
the
your
world to happen
journey.
to me. Yeah. I remember I found out that I wasn't going to be able to leave Australia and go to New Zealand. And my
Mhm.
best friend had left a week before me. And I thought it was the worst thing in the world. I thought my life was over. I was like, oh my God,
But it's
what
not,
am I
isn't
going
it?
to do? Like very reactive because I hadn't done all this work yet. And then it all figured out. And now I'm a resident of Australia. I'm a coach. I'm sat on this podcast with you. And that might not have happened if the borders didn't shut. when they did 2 days
Well, I'm
before.
so proud of
Like,
you. No, I'm serious. It's a journey that makes me smile listening to this. It makes my heart full because you've come a long way, and it's you must be proud of yourself, girl.
yeah.
Like it's something huge. It's not easy. This journey. I mean, probably like 10 years ago, and now
Mm,
look at you. You might be like,
yeah.
oh my God. But
Mm,
now that we're talking about that, what would you say if you had 2 minutes, right? Talking to you, pick any age,
mm.
teenage year or whatever. What would you say to that little Courtney if
What
you
would I
had the
say to
time?
her? Yeah.
Talking to
I would say to her, especially let's go with teenage years.
Mhm.
I'd say to her that you don't have to be anybody else but you. Like you are loved just as you are. And the key thing I'd say to her is you do not need a man. You do not need a man
Be
to
happy,
feel worthy, to
to
be
feel
happy,
worthy.
to, yeah, all of these things. Like, yes, you get to meet a man who is an addition to your happiness, who makes you feel safe, but you don't need one. That's what I'd say to her. But I'd also say, like, get fucking ready because soon your life
You're
is going
gonna
to be unreal.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and that's wonderful to hear that because maybe before in your teenage year you need a man to feel worthy and
Yeah.
understandable why. And now that you imagine, because when we remember, for example, I remember my face, my journey when I was 14. So sometimes we forget because sometimes we feel not grateful of life when you are in a
Yeah.
shitty situation. But then when I start to remember my little Ayu, my little girl, I was like, look, I'm proud of you. Yeah, you just have
Yeah.
to keep going. And sometimes it's important to connect with that inner child, that
Oh,
because
100%.
yeah, at that time you didn't think life would be this way. And
Mhm.
thank you for sharing that again. And look, we've been talking for like 40 minutes. I want to talk more. So before we wrap up, yeah, what's your big advice for women in their 30s that are not confident, that feeling stuck and thinking, this is it? Is this it? What would you say?
I would say that you have a choice. And right now, things might seem like you can't see where life is going and you can't see that light. Okay. But if you just pause and ask yourself, who do I want to be? What do I want life to look like? Please know that you can make that happen and you'll be very, very shocked at what things can look like. Even, I was going to say in a year's time, but even fucking 4 months, 3 months' time, if you start small and you focus on like 1% better each day and focus on each day as it comes with start small with a couple of habits or
Mhm.
anything, like just one small action. What's one thing that you can do to create more joy, create more happiness, and create more safety in your life? And just concentrate on that for now. You don't need to overwhelm yourself. You don't need to go, oh my God, I need to learn everything that was
Baby
talked about in
steps.
today's podcast. Yeah, like you can just focus on one thing that is going to create more of that sense of calm and confidence in your life each day. And before you know it,
Cool.
shit will, yeah, your life will
Thank you
be
so
incredible.
much for saying that. I feel like it's a reminder for me as well. It's a
Mm.
reminder for me as well because I remember you even say about transformation about 3 or 4 months. I started my podcast. Well, it was on October.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, it's still new. And
Mm,
I decided, okay, I'm going to make a podcast. I will speak to women about authenticity, being bold, being brave, and being you.
mm.
That's it. My motto is actually be bold, be brave, be you. That's my
Oh,
podcast
love
motto.
that.
And then look at me now talking to you. And
And you're incredible at what you do as well. You wouldn't
oh,
have think
thank
that you
you.
own, yeah, you wouldn't think that you've owned like this is just launched in October because the way you interview and the way that you speak is very like,
So
yeah.
I said to myself, I'm gonna get that microphone and just start. And at first it was shitty. It was just like no lights, no anything. It's just me talking about my experience. But I kept going. I kept on going. I uploaded every Sunday. I recorded every Thursday. 4 episodes. I got overwhelmed and I cried before I recorded. It was shitty, but I showed up, Courtney. I
Yeah, you
showed
did
up.
it.
I didn't care. So thank you so much for today. I'm so glad we did this. I'm so glad that we
too.
crossed path. And oh my God, I'm so grateful today. And thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
You're so welcome.